Hello everyone, welcome to Bad Fashion's YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. Today we'll be learning how to draft a princess armhole that with a yoke at the neckline area. I'll be using this beautiful suede fabric for the princess armhole that, and then I'll be using this lace fabric for the net. So to begin this tutorial, I'll be drafting on my pattern paper. So I've placed my paper already. At this line I have here is my starting line, which is also the starting, which means this is just my shoulder line. Now the measurements we need to draft our princess armhole that are the shoulder measurement, the bust measurement, the round waist measurement, the round on the bust, the half length, which is from shoulder to the half length, that's to the high waist, and then your armhole measurements. Okay, so let's start right away. I'm going to be marking the shoulder to half length. I'm working with here is 17 inches. So here is my 17 inches. I'll be adding my sewing allowances to my pattern. It just makes your work a lot easier. So 17 plus half inch, because I'll be joining this princess armhole that to the lower part. So I've added my half inch for my sewing allowance. So the shoulder to bust point is 11. Shoulder to on the bust is 14.5. So I've marked out my points. I'm just going to draw them out. Make them a straight line. Okay. So I'll be labeling this bust line BL, on the bust BL, UBL, and then half length HL. So this is it. So I'll come here to my shoulder line. I'm going to be marking 3 inches and then 8 inches to create my shoulder slant. So I have my 8 inches. So I'm going to slant it. So now I have my shoulder slant. So the actual shoulder measurement I'm working with is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8 plus half inch for joining my sleeve. So I'm just going to add my half inch. So meaning I'll extend my shoulder slant towards that half inch that I added. Okay. So to get my armhole measurement, you're going to use your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5. The bust measurement I'm using here is 40. When you divide it by 6 plus 1.5, you have 8 inches. So I'll come down from the shoulder slant and mark my 8 inches. And then I'll come here to repeat this 8.5. So this is for me to have a straight line. Can you see where my previous dot was? So if I had drawn from there, it wouldn't have been a straight line. So connecting it to the shoulder slant. So here is my armhole line, which is also referred to as your chest line. Okay, so I'll come to the bust and mark my nipple to nipple measurement, which is the distance from one bust to the other. Is called your bust span, is 8 inches plus half inch for joining. I said I was adding my sewing allowances to my pattern, so this is plus half inch for joining. So here too I'll mark my 4.5 and then 4.5. I'll go ahead and connect it as a straight line. So I have my straight line to this side. On this side, which is the center piece, this is my side piece. I'll mark half inch on this side and then half inch on this side and leave it at that point. So I'll come to my bust point line. The bust divided by 4 is 10, because the bust I'm working with is 40 inches. So I'll mark here. So I have my 40 inches, I will have my 10 inches there. The under bust measurement I'm working with is 33 inches. So to mark my 33 inches, 33 divided by 4 is what? Is 8 and quarter. So here is my 8 and quarter. So the difference between the bust and the under bust is what will give me my dart intake for my princess armhole done. So here I have 10 inches and here I have 8 and quarter. So by the time I subtract 8 and quarter from 10 inches, I'm going to be left with 1 and 3/4. So I'll come to this side and mark my 1 and 3/4. I'll mark my 1 and 3/4 here on the waistline too. This is to achieve my princess armhole dart. So I'm just going to connect these lines together. And then the 1/2 inch I have on the center piece, I'm connecting it together also. Can you see what it looks like? So this is it. Okay. So I'll come here to this point and then I'll come down from the bust by 1/2 inch. If you place your curve correctly, it will just give you that 1/2 inch on its own. So I'll come down by 1/2 inch and then connect it using my armhole curve to connect it. So you place it correctly like so and then connect it. Okay, and then this way, take it this way too and then connect it like so. Okay, now that I've done this, I'm going to come to the armhole area and get the midpoint of my armhole. Here is the midpoint of my armhole, which is 4 inches. I'll go in by 3/4 of an inch. Here's my 3/4 of an inch. And then I'll slant it back to the shoulder slant. This is to eliminate bulge around the midpoint of the armhole. Have it at the back of your mind that the measurement we have here is the shoulder measurement, and the midpoint of the armhole is not as wide as the original. That's the main shoulder. So that's why we're going in here to take in that difference. Okay, so on this point, this midpoint, I'm going to come down by 1/2 of an inch. Depending on the bust size you are working with, sometimes you may need to do 3/4, but in this case I'm working with 1/2 of an inch. So when I do this, I'll come here to the bust point line. Let me just draw my line higher so that I have a guide. Okay, so I've come down by 1/2 inch. I'm going to bring it just like I came down by 1/2 inch on this point. I came down by 1/2 inch on the bust point. I'll go up by 1/2 inch also at this point and then use my armhole curve to connect it like so. So let's see what I've done, and then I'll still take the same armhole curve and then this 1/2 inch I have here and then connect it like so also. This is to remove the dart around that area. You see that the two lines have now connected back. So this shoulder, this 3/4 of an inch, I'll just bring it down to this point like so. Okay, you see what I have. Okay, so I'll go ahead now to enter my measurements. I have a bust circumference of 40, which is 10. I'll add my 2 inches there. Okay, I'll add my 2 inches there. I have an underbust of 33 inches. 33 divided by 4, it gives me 8 and 3/4. So here is my 8 and 3/4. What's the dart intake I have here? Everything I have here is 2 1/4. The measurement of the dart I have here is 2 1/4. Please, you replace back the 2 1/4 because I'll be cutting out this part, so I'm replacing it back. So here is my 2 1/4. Then before I go ahead to add my 2 inches for my sewing allowance. So here the underbust, the waist measurement I'm working with is 34 in this case. Then you divide it by 4, you have 8.5. So here's my 8.5. So plus my 2 inches for sewing allowance, and then the same 2 1/4 that I have here. So I'm just going to enter it. So this is what my pattern looks like. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Okay, so now the front length I'm working with is 17 and the back length I'm working with is 15 inches. Why do we have a difference in the front and back length? Because we have our bust in front. So the front length is not equal to the back. So the difference between the back and the front is 2 inches, which will give me my bust dart. So I'll come here. Remember that after this point, everything here is my sewing allowance. So I'll come here to this point. This is my sewing allowance, so that we are clear. So can you see that here? This is my sewing allowance of 2 inches that I've added to my pattern. So I'll come here to this point and take my 2 inches, which is for the bust dart. Okay, so I'm going to take the 2 inches, which is the difference between my front and back, and then I'll connect it to the bust point area. So that you mark it at this point where is your actual measurement before you just extend it to that point. So here is my 2 inches. So I'm going to be connecting it to the bust point. This is my bust dart, which is the difference between the front and the back. So I'll just come here and then slant it towards my sewing allowance, because it's all part of it. Okay, so now that I've done this is what I have. So now at the chest line, of course, it's the same measurement, which is the bust measurement I'm going to be bringing there. So I'm going to mark by the bust measurement of, say, 10 inches, and then come out by 2 inches. So this line will extend this way like so. Okay, so this is what we have. So I will be coming out from this point. I'm going to be cutting out this part and cutting out this part. They are all my darts and this part too. So I'll come here and extend this particular line, because when you are joining your fabric, this center piece becomes longer than this. So this becomes, by the time you sew, you will have a shortage around here. So that is why I'm going to be extending this side piece outwards. So I'll come here and go out by 1.5 inches. The amount of that intake you have here can determine it. So whatever you have here, if you have 2, here I have 2.25. So I'm just going out by 1.5 inches. So you can just deduct ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch from what you have here and then extend it out. So in this case, I deducted 3/4 inch. So that is what I'm taking out. So here, I'll take out this point like so. Just use my free hand and take it out like this, or I'll use my curve so that it comes out well. So taking it out, so I just connect it here. This is a temporal armhole because it is subject to trimming. Don't forget that this is where I came in by 3/4 of an inch. So by the time I am done joining the both of them, I will reshape my armhole and cut out that difference, because this is not how my armhole is going to be. So by the time I join, whatever it is that is left here, wherever this stops, wherever this side piece stops on this center piece, I will trim it and get back my 8 inches, which is supposed to be the actual armhole measurement I'm working with. So I'll come here to the shoulder line and add ½ inch for joining the front and the back. I hope we are understanding. So here I'll add ½ inch to both for joining the front and the back. So this is taking me higher. Okay, then I'll go ahead to mark my neckline. I'm working with a neckline of 3.5 by 3.5. So to actually know the neckline, because remember I said I was going to make a yoke, and we want this yoke to be high. I want it to sit on the collar. So you divide your bust by 12 inches. It just gives you the neckline that will sit on the neckline that will sit on your collarbone. So in this case, when I divided 40 by 12, I have 3.5. So I'm using 3.5 in this case. So I'm going to connect it like this. So I have my neckline. So here is my neckline. Okay, sorry, I made a mistake. This is here. This is I marked it on this side. So this is my actual neckline. Please take note of it. This is my 3.5 here. Okay, so I'll be cutting on this particular, the first one, not the second one. So that's that for our princess armhole dart. So I'm going to be closing the bust dart. I'll cut out this one, I'll cut out the waist dart, cut out the armhole dart, and I'll be closing the bust dart, which will allow me have same measurements for my back, because remember the front is 17 inches and I use 17.5, that's plus my sewing allowance. The back is going to be 15 inches plus half inch, which is going to be 15.5. So for them to match up, or for them to be equal on the sides, I need to close up these darts. So I'll just bring in my paper scissors and go ahead and cut it out. So I'll be showing us how I'm cutting my dart so that we get it clearly. So I'll be starting from my shoulder line. I'm cutting on the extra half inch that I added. Okay, so I'm cutting out my center piece first. So I have my center piece. Okay, now there's something I forgot to mention. Remember I said I was going to be working with a yoke, and this yoke is going to be on my centerpiece. Okay, and it's going to be a sweetheart neckline. So the depth of the yoke I'm working with a yoke of 7 inches. So I'm going to mark this 7 inches from here, this 7 inches from my shoulder line, like so. I'll mark my 7 inches here. Okay, and then I'll be connecting it to this 4 inches here. So I'm creating a sweetheart neckline with my yoke. So here we are. So just going to do that because it's just going to be on the center piece. So this is my yoke for, I'll be using this part. This part is going to be the lace, and then this part and the other sides are going to be the suede fabric or the velvet fabric. So I'm cutting my neckline. So I cut on my 3.5, and then I'll also be cutting out my yoke now. So this is my yoke. So I'll keep aside the center piece and then cut out the darts for the sides. So here for my dart, I'll come this way. I'll be cutting out this part. I'm cutting out my waist dart. Follow the curve nicely. So I have it cut out. I'm cutting out the armhole dart now. Okay, so I'm going to come here to the armhole area. I'm going to come out by half of an inch. You see this part that I extended my line like so. I'm going to come out by half of an inch. We'll understand it when I'm closing my dart. This is to avoid having shortage on the dart. That's after closing my dart. So just going to come out by half of an inch, which I've done so. So this is what I have. So go ahead and cut it out. So I'll just cut out this way, close my dart before I cut out properly. So here is your dart. So you can close it or you tape it down, whichever one you want to do. It's easier to actually cut it out because it stops, it prevents all this trying to fold here and there. So you see, if I'm folding it, this is what I have. Let me pin this down. I'm closing my bust dart. Can you see what I have? So you see why I came out at that point. So now that I come out here, can you see that it's blending up? Because if I didn't come out, I would have been having a shortage at the upper at the upper part. So this is that extension that I have. So I'm just going to close out my buns that I'll actually tape it down, but let me go ahead and cut it out first, and then before I tape it down, and we'll see what I have. So I'm cutting out this part. Okay, so this is what my side piece looks like. I'll bring in my masking tape and tape it down. So I've taped down I've closed my bust that. So this is what I have. Okay, so this is what my front pattern looks like. You see them, and then this is my yoke here, like so. So I'll go right away to draft the back pattern. Working with is 15 inches plus half inch for joining, which is going to be 15.5. So I'll do that. Draft my back pattern. I'm marking my shoulder line, which is my starting line. Okay, I'll come down from the shoulder line to get the half length. The back half length is 15 inches plus half inch for joining. So here is my 15.5. Here is my 15.5. So just mark it. Okay. So now that I have my 15.5, at the back I'm going to be having a zipper. I'm using a zip allowance of 1.5. So I'm marking it from the center back. So this is my 1.5 here. So now that I have my 1.5, I'm connecting the lines. Then I indicate zip allowance, zip allowance. So here is my zip allowance. So all my measurements will be starting after the zip allowance. So I'm going to mark my 3 inches away from the zip allowance. So here I'll mark my 3 inches and still go ahead to mark my 8 inches to create my shoulder slant. And then remember that the shoulder measurement I'm working with 16 plus half inch. That's 16 divided by 2, 8 plus half inch. That's 8.5. So at this 8 inches mark I have here, I'm coming down by 1 inch. I didn't mark my 1 inch at the 8.5. I marked at 8 inches. So I'll connect it like this. So I'm slanting it towards the 8.5. So I'll come down from the shoulder slant, that's at the 8.5, by the armhole measurement, which in this case is 8 inches. So here is my 8 inches. So I'll come here to reconfirm my 8.5. This is to enable you have a straight line. So here that I have my straight line like so, I'm going to connect it to the shoulder. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so this is my armhole line, which is also the chest line for the back. So this is our chest line and this is our waistline. Those are the measurements you need. You don't need your bust point at the back. So here at the midpoint of the back armhole, I'm going to come in by half of an inch. I'm going to get the midpoint, I'll get the midpoint of the armhole, which is 4 inches. Then I'll come in by half of an inch. Remember the front we came in by 3/4 of an inch. For the back we're coming in by half of an inch because the mid back, that's the middle of the armhole at the back is wider than that of the front. So in this case, the back has a difference of 1 inch, the front has a difference of 1.5. That's why I used 3/4 of an inch in front. Remember that it's going to be on both sides, so it's going to be 1.5. Here is half inch. Remember it's going to be on both sides, so it's going to be 1 inch. So I'm going to connect my armhole. So before I do that, I'm going to enter the bust measurement. The bust measurement is 10 inches. So that's where I'm going to be curving my armhole towards. So I'm going to connect it like so. So this is my armhole for the back. So like I did for the front, I added my sewing allowance. So I'll add my sewing allowance. So meaning that this line will extend outwards. So but you can see where my armhole stopped. It stopped at the bust point, which is 10 inches. or at the bust measurement, which is 10 inches. So here is my 10 inches plus 2 inches. So I'm using the waist measurement of 8.5, which is 34 when you divide it by 4. So that's 8.5. So here is my 8.5. So I'll come here to the back also and mark my nipple to nipple measurement, which is the bust part, 4 inches plus half. So that's 4.5. So I'm marking my 4.5 here. So this chest line, I'm going to draw it out, because that's where I'm going to be connecting my darts to. So I'll mark my 4.5. Remember, I'm adding my sewing allowances to my pattern. If you don't want to add sewing allowances, all this plus this, I'm saying you don't have to do it. You just do it on your fabric directly. This is what works for me, and I like it. It makes my work easier. So I will always want the easy way. Nobody wants to waste too much time. So I mark this point. So I'm going to come here and take in ½ inch on both sides, which is my dart. ½ inch, making a ½ inch on the left and the right, so making it 1 inch. And then I'll go ahead to connect it like so. And then like so. So this is my waist dart for my back. Okay, so to reconfirm our measurements, we have 8.5 here plus 1 inch for the dart. You have to replace that by 1 inch, and then 2 inches for your sewing allowance. So this is what I have for my back pattern. So this is what I have for my back pattern. So I'll come to the zip allowance area. I'll take out my bulge. You'll notice that the back is inward around that midpoint. That's the underbust area at the back, where you have your underbust in front. If you check your back, you notice that the spinal cord area is inward. So to eliminate bulge, you don't want to fix your zip and then it's folding at the back. That's why I'm taking out this bulge. I'll come here and take out ½ inch. Remember, my zip allowance is 1.5. I'm taking out ½ inch from it. This is to eliminate bulge. So by the time I do that, I'm just going to slant it all the way to my neckline. I'm just going to take it all the way to the neckline. You can stop at the, it depends on how much you want to go. Remember, I'm using a suede fabric which is stretchy, so it's better I go as high as possible. You can stop at your chest line, you can stop at the midpoint of your armhole, you can go all the way to the neckline. I always prefer to go all the way to the neckline so that the back is as flat as possible. So I'll go ahead and mark my neckline for the back. Remember, I use the neck width of 3.5 for the front, so I'm marking my neckline for the back. And then the neck depth for the back, I'll be using the neck depth of 1.5 inches. So here is my 1.5 inches. So just going to connect to the neckline. Okay, so this is it. So I will also be using a yoke at the back. I'll be using the lace fabric too at the back to create my yoke. So I'll come here. You want to, it depends on how you want it to be. Now in this case, what I want to have, I just want to have the net sitting on top of it, and the zipper, I don't want the zipper to run on the lace fabric. I want the zipper to just stop on my suede fabric. So here I'm going to come down here. My yoke is going to have a depth of 6 inches at the back. That's from the neckline, meaning that from the shoulder line I have 7.5. So I'll be connecting it to the midpoint of the armhole also here. So I'll bring in my pattern master and just curve it nicely. So this is what I have. So this is going to be my back yoke. So this is my yoke for the back. Okay, so that's that. The back is that simple. So I'll go ahead and cut it out. But before I do that, I'll bring in my front side piece so that we can see, understand what I'm talking about. Remember that our back length is shorter by 2 inches. So you see now my dart is closed, and you see that when I place them side by side, they are equal. They are going to be matching up because I'm going to sew them together. So can you see, placing them side by side, they are equal. Let me do it this way so that we see it clearer. Can you see, placing them side by side, they are equal on the side. So you do not want to have any difference between both of them. So they are equal by the side. So let's get started with our cutting. So I'm going to be doing this. So now I added ½ inch in front for joining my shoulder. I know that somebody will be saying, now I didn't add ½ inch for joining my back. I don't add ½ inch for joining the back because the front armhole, remember I took away ½ inch from the armhole area for my bust dart. That is why I came back here to replace that same ½ inch. Remember, that's why I came back here to replace that same ½ inch. I didn't take out anything here, so I'm not replacing anything here. This 8 inches plus the sewing allowance is enough armhole measurement. You don't want the shoulder to be slapped. You want it to be as firm as possible. Please, let's understand that. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to cut out my neckline. You can see I'm cutting it out. So I'll cut out my yoke with the zip allowance, then I'll show you how I'll cut it out, because I said I don't want the zipper to go into the yoke. So but I'm just going to assume that it's going into the yoke right now, so I'm cutting it out with my zip allowance. But before I do that, let me take out my bulge first. So as you can see, I've taken out my bulge. So you see the back is looking slanted. That's the center back is looking slanted inwards. Okay. So I'm cutting my armhole. So I've taken out my yoke. So okay. So here we are. So this is my back pattern. This is what my back pattern looks like. So remember that I slashed it. I'll be joining them back together. So when I'm cutting on my pattern, on my fabric, I'm going to be adding my sewing allowance of ½ inch to this point, and then ½ inch to this point, because that's what I'll use to join them back. If you don't add it, you're going to have it shorted, meaning that this length of 15.5 that I have here will be reduced. So that's not, I do not want it to be like so. So I'm just going to add ½ inch here and ½ inch here. So that is it. So and then this front yoke, I'm going to also be doing that. I'm going to also be adding ½ inch at the base here for joining it to the center front. So the center front too will also have its own ½ inch at the upper area here. At this point, I'll add ½ inch and add here ½ inch. So let me just place my patterns together so that we can see them. So you can see I've placed my pattern sets together. So you see what I have. They are all, the sides are matching up. Like I earlier said, I have my front yoke and I have my back yoke. So like I said, I do not want to have my zipper running on it, but in a case where you want your zipper to run on it, just leave it that way. You join it back and then sew your zipper together. So if this tutorial was helpful, please like, share, comment, and do not forget, please subscribe to my channel. See you in my next one. Bye. So but before I go, let me say this. I'll be showing us in my next video how I'll cut out my fabric. I'll be showing us in my next video how to pad our princess armhole dart and how to join it. I'll show us the outcome of this dress. I'm sure that we'll be looking forward to seeing it. Please subscribe to my channel. Don't forget, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.